How can we improve them? What selling points are you going to try and use? What are you trying to persuade? What are you trying to persuade your buyers with?
When it comes to lessons in selling yourself, teacher Jane Fanshawe speaks from experience. In only 4 years of teaching, Jane's been promoted to MFL coordinator at Holy Cross Primary School near Newcastle.
How can we... Without coaching and mentoring, I don't think I would be MFL coordinator now. I don't think I would have the confidence to have taken on that role yet, because I wasn't secure enough in my evaluation of myself as a teacher, I don't think. Having that coaching and mentoring very much at the forefront of the school, it's just opened so many doors. It really has. But something about this serial advert has to appeal to the parents. So how can you persuade them? I mean, you've used some lovely graphics here.
Former MFL coordinator Maria Nicholson is mentoring Jane through the first few weeks in her new role.
So how generally do you feel that your new role as MFL coordinator has gone this year, do you?
Certain parts of it I'm really comfortable with. I'm getting quite happy with the training. I feel that the other teachers are beginning to know their roles much better. But I do have one absolute concern. As part of my role as coordinator, I have to do some coaching with Mr. James, who is our deputy head. I am an ordinary teacher, and I'm going to be going into his classroom and I'm going to be observing him, and it's the first observation that I will ever have done, and I don't know. The whole idea makes my knees knock, to be honest.
I think you could put people off the coaching and mentoring process if you went in looking to make a judgment, but it never is like that. It has to be a dialogue between two people with this common goal of helping and supporting. So you're going in, and what you are doing is you are helping Andrew. You are going to take him through, you know, his progress in teaching French. The first thing you need to do is to meet with Andrew on an informal basis. Letting Andrew take the lead is I would agree a focus for the observation.
Right. Okay.
You know, what is it that he wants you to focus on?
That's a much more productive way of going about it, because he'll know exactly where he needs to improve without anybody telling him. Yeah, it's a little bit... But who is going to want to eat this cereal? Is it just small children, or is it bigger children, or is it grown-ups as well?
An understanding of the subject on which you're mentoring is essential to the mentoring process. Also, you need to be a good listener. You need to take other people's ideas on board, to present your own ideas clearly, and I think prepared to be questioned yourself, because the person who needs your help, who is being mentored, does want answers, and it's your job therefore to give them.
So where would you suggest, if I sit at the back of the class, or...?
I would always ask, you know, where would you like me? You know,
right, okay, so ask the question, because teachers have different...
Not to be in the way, in case there is some movement around the activities involved.
Okay, so where would you like me to...
And when you do this, I can be involved, if you so wish. I could, you know, form part of the lesson. I can come in and observe you.
So you could actually come in and be there with me for that first...
Yeah, and that way I can also help you...
coaching session.
You know, collate your feedback.
And that would be really helpful. Would you mind?
Not at all.
I think having a strong mentor who's available to you is absolutely vital. I don't think I could have been as effective as quickly without her. In fact, I know I couldn't.
Jaune. Well done, Nicholas. Jaune. Yellow. Gris. Well done, Tobias. What's gris? Not silver. Who can remind us what gris is?
Grey.
Grey. Well done. Rose.
Now, I know you're fairly new to teaching French. What focus do you want me to consider when we're looking at this lesson? What's the area that you want to work on?
Well, I'm quite happy with the actual resources that we have.
Right.
The thing with teaching them French at this stage, because there's such a large focus on the speaking and listening, I'm
Yes.
happy with the whole class speaking listening aspect, and working one-to-one. It's trying to develop more opportunities for speaking and listening.
What approaches have you tried in the past?
I've been using, obviously, with chanting in groups, discussion on tables. I have done a little bit of paired work with it, but
Do you not find that successful with them?
not particularly successful at the minute, but I'd be interested to see if you can give any suggestions.
Right, okay. So that's the focus that we're going to work on.
When we pronounce it, we almost don't hear the S. So we're not going to look at the spelling just yet. We're going to pronounce it gris. Can everybody say that? Gris. Okay, good. It's all about the sharing of ideas and another pair of eyes coming into the classroom. And you have your strengths that you work to. But sometimes it's easy to get into a routine or a set way of doing things. So the opportunity for anybody else to come in with a fresh pair of eyes to look at a lesson or to bring in fresh ideas, that's what the opportunity is about, really. Okay, what we're going to do this morning is we're going to look at revising numbers that we've done so far. Okay, this time we're going to start bouncing the ball. And every time I bounce, you're going to count with me. But you've got to be careful because I might stop bouncing and you've got to wait and carry on counting with me. Okay, so every bounce, it's a count. Okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7.
Can I ask you, when you were seeing the first part there, what's the most useful for you, seeing the video clip or watching the slap the board out to the tee? Which helps you learn the best?
Slap the board.
You like the slap the board? Because I've asked some people and they thought the video clip. So it's interesting to see that different people learn in different ways. Okay? I've picked up a couple of things in the lesson that are lovely, but they're things that we could do anyway before we moved on to pairs, which I'll go over with you later on when we do some feedback. Okay? We had discussed when we were planning the lesson whether to do some paired work, whether that would help us in meeting the assessment focus that we'd agreed today, and we'd thought originally, yes, let's do some paired work. However, having seen the lesson so far, I've picked up on a few things that I'd like to develop further with him first. And I felt it was important to interrupt at that point, discreetly, I hope, but I didn't want to go off and drag too much in. I think when you're coaching, you really need to keep your focus small because it's making one step solid each time, and it's working on the good things.
I don't think you ever get comfortable with somebody coming in and, you know, putting you under the microscope, as it were. But, and I think when I think how long I've been doing this, I still feel the same before an observation. But because it's always presented afterwards in such a way that everything is looked at and what you're doing well is acknowledged, then you are more ready to accept anything that needs to move you on.
Well, I've completed your feedback form from this morning, and we were looking at opportunities to assess individual speaking and listening skills. How did you feel it went?
I felt there were plenty of opportunities there for the individual speaking and listening.
Right.
Being able to pick up immediately on pronunciation issues and things like that. I think you've got to have confidence in the person who is coming in, but it's not about being more experienced or more senior. It's more confidence that whatever is discussed on a professional basis, that it's not a personal thing, and that both parties are open to it.
First of all, if I could go through the lesson as I saw it. Good fast-moving pace. You kept going right throughout. There were no obvious gaps. The children were fully engaged all the time, so that was really good. What I'd suggest to you to develop in the future really is paired work within the class. And there's a couple of ways that you could do that without radically changing the format of that lesson, actually. Right. So where you were doing the slap the board activity, perhaps if you use something like different colour cubes, so as the child is saying vert or orange, the people on the table are picking up that colour cube as well. And it would be quite easy for you to quickly assess how knowledgeable they are on the colours, recognition. I appreciate that's not their speaking and their pronunciation, but it would have given you a quick fire assessment on their listening.
Yeah, no, that's a great idea. And
so
I think
that
it is something that it's very manageable to do that, isn't it, in that time that you have there.
Yes.
The feedback is very important because this person has invited you to be involved in their career development. They've initiated a focus. And if you were to just do the observation, make your feedback and close your book, then nothing would have been achieved by the process that you've just gone through. You have to tie up what you set out to achieve. So generally the process was excellent. For the first time, I think you very much kept the nature of coaching in that it was clear that you were there, to help, not to be judgmental in any way.
I found it quite hard to focus just on our objective.
Right.
And I had to keep dragging myself back to, I'm here to look at this. Yes. And try not to get sidetracked, because I think it would be quite easy just to wander off on a tangent, actually. And I think you need to be quite focused on what your objective is for that lesson.
One thing I noticed just as you were giving the feedback, you invited Andrew's general views about the lesson and then, identified the positives, but then you offered the suggestions as, the paired work and the responding to a question. I just wondered if, in terms of a coach, whether it would have been just to turn that around and then say to Andrew, have you, thought on about importing your ideas? What suggestions could you make? How do you think you might have got the children more involved? And then there might have been something that came from him, and then you could bolster that with your own suggestions.
So instead of jumping in quite so quickly there, allow time for him to develop the ideas himself. If you are lucky enough to be mentored, I would say learn all you can. Take every advantage that you can, because it can only help you. And don't look on it as something to be scared of, because that's not what it's there for.
In terms of enhancing teaching, coaching and mentoring is fundamental. If you were to take away all of the support that you receive from the staff around you in terms of the coordinators and the senior staff, if you cut yourself off from that, you would stay the same. You would never move on. You would never improve and grow as a teacher.
Well done, Emma.